Hello everyone, and welcome to another GIS lecture video. And in this lecture video, I want to talk about our fourth visual variable by talking about the idea of shape. So we're going to talk about the idea of shape. So similar to size, I think shape is probably one of the more straightforward visual variables. And this has to do with changing the shape of the symbol or symbols and patterns. Right. And so for point data, right, this is pretty straightforward. Right, we could have some points represented with squares. We could have some points represented with circles. We could have some points represented with triangles, right? And it would be pretty clear to see that these are three different shapes, meaning these are three different underlying values for the variable. Right, for lines, what we could do is we could do something like we could change the dash shape. So maybe one dash shape would be a line like that. Maybe one dash shape might be a cross like this. And then maybe one dash shape might be little circles or dots. Right? In both these cases, or in all three of these cases, right, we get the idea that there is a line heading in this direction, or there's a line, horizontal line. I shouldn't imply directionality here. That there is a horizontal line here, but we're representing it by three different shapes that make up the pattern. And then finally, for polygons, what we do is we change the symbols that make up the pattern. So again, if I have my three little polygons here, right, we could have one represented by a pattern of lines like this. Maybe one is represented by a series of X's like this, and maybe one is represented by a series of circles like that. So in all three cases, in theory, if we did our job, if we did the best job we possibly could, right, we haven't changed anything but the shape of the symbol. So we haven't made them bigger. We haven't changed the spacing. Hopefully with polygons, we haven't implied any change in density. So with shape, right, by and large, shape works best with nominal, right? Because we're not implying any sort of ranking or ordering here. We're not implying any sort of change in density, which could be, we're not implying a change in density, which doesn't imply a ranking here. So shape, generally speaking, works best with nominal data. Now that being said, there is a caveat. If you pick, and I'm gonna scroll down just a little bit, and I'm gonna make this in a different color, right? If I'm making this in big words, right? If your shape has a increasing number of corners, or edges, you, and I'm going to put this again in yellow, might be able to use it for ordinal. Let me give an example. Right? If you go from, say, a triangle to a square to a hexagon to an octagon, right? There is potentially a visible idea of ranking here, but it is subtle. So if you were to use this in conjunction with a very well laid out legend, you might be able to get this to work for ordinal or interval ratio. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but if you're trying to do something a little bit different, or maybe you have other variables that you're dealing with as well, this is a possibility. That if you have something like this where you're having the same shape, you're just increasing the number of corners, or maybe you have a star and you increase the number of points in the star, you might be able to get away with a subtle increase in ranking. But generally speaking, stick with nominal. So to go back up here, right, shape for nominal. And I'm not going to bother putting it under quantitative because we're not going to really be dealing too much with that. So hopefully that made sense. And as always, if you have any questions, please reach out. Thank you.